Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Toast, and we got a couple big game updates to talk about today. One for Xbox and the other for PlayStation. Speculation is starting to run rampant that Insomniac might be teasing another maybe superhero game that isn't Wolverine or Spider-Man. Now, at first glance, this actually seems like pretty exciting stuff, but there are some questions for Insomniac's future as well that I want to go over today. Then also, BlizzCon took place last week, so we got a lot of information coming from there, including possibly a future Xbox game. Fans have been requesting this for pretty much as long as I can remember, so we're going to get into that as well. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, bada bing, bada boom, it'll be delivered directly to your device, so make sure to hit those buttons. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. So, early access for its single player started late last week, and a lot of early impressions quickly hit the internet, and, well, one of the main reasons for that is because it's not really a very long game. How Long to Beat currently has its campaign tracked at just 5 hours long as of this recording, which I believe that makes it actually the shortest mainline Call of Duty entry thus far. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But this does bring up a big question that we've heard pretty much all year long. We keep hearing from leaks that Modern Warfare 3 is pretty much glorified DLC sold at retail price because Activision didn't want to miss their yearly Call of Duty release. You know, this is their surefire hit every single year, but now that a single player is out in the wild, there are some strange things happening. You do have to use the Modern Warfare 2 launcher to actually play this game, and then there's also been some error codes that asks players to insert the Modern Warfare 2 disc to fix its problem. Now, maybe they're just using Modern Warfare 2 as a portal and they're connecting them all together, and okay, but there are signs out there that this game might have originally been on the brink of being sizable DLC. Regardless of all of that, though, one way or the other, early impressions for its campaign has not exactly been great. It currently has 6 reviews on OpenCritic, all of which have a 5 or below score. Now, you can take that as you will. If you don't care about critics, you can simply ignore that. But even from fans, I've not really been hearing a lot of good things about its campaign. Now, to be fair, Call of Duty doesn't really rely on its single player. Most people play Call of Duty for its multiplayer, so as long as that's good, this probably isn't going to matter all that much, but the way I view this situation is that Xbox needs to come in and clean things up. This is kind of the hope with that acquisition, the hope that Xbox can come in and make things better at Activision Blizzard. Not only give these studios more creative freedom and choice for the games that they want to make, which there's already signs that they're going to do that much, but there's also a balance that they have to keep with Call of Duty. This is such a massive franchise, so of course they're going to continue to pump these out. But for me personally, I think that they should stop focusing so much on quantity and instead really just make sure the quality is the most important thing. Maybe go away from those yearly releases and really just let these games bake in the oven to be the best that they can possibly be. Maybe every 2 or 3 years we can get a brand new Call of Duty, and in the meantime they can just simply focus on the last game with consistent updates until that next full iteration arrives. Now, that might be easier said than done. You know, this could be a tough decision for a business to make, just considering how much money this franchise makes yearly. It is a money-making machine. But, you know, let me know what you all think about this. Do you think Xbox should go away from those yearly releases or not? Now, speaking of Xbox, though, we now have a release date set in stone for Ark Survival Ascended. After first releasing on PC, it is now officially slated for November 14th, and they also confirmed that it will be up to spec with the PC version, which, you know, that's great to see. We're not going to see a big downgrade or anything like that. And in fact, it'll also include crossplay with PC and Xbox players right out of the gate, unless you just simply don't like cross-play. In that case, you'll have full control of that option. If you just want to play on Xbox-only servers, you can absolutely play that way, which is honestly nice to see. On one side, I do like the fact that more games include cross-play now, but at the same time, I also firmly believe that it should always be up to the players at the end of the day. Crossplay for certain genres just doesn't translate all that well, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But oddly enough, you may have noticed I haven't mentioned a PlayStation version up to this point. Well, that's actually because the PS5 version has unfortunately been delayed, though Don't worry too much about this. This appears to be just a small delay. They're now aiming for a late November release, so we're only talking maybe a week or two delay here. They, however, noted that they are optimistic that they'll be able to share a more precise date sometime here soon. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I'll update you all when we hear more, but hey, if you're an ARK fan, regardless if you're on PC, Xbox, or PlayStation, everybody will be able to play soon enough. Let's go talk about PlayStation, though, because they just dropped Spider-Man 2 a few weeks back. It's excellent, as expected, but there's been some speculation for what's next for Insomniac Games. Now, they've already talked about the future of Spider-Man going forward, and I'm not going to talk about that here because I think that that's almost borderline spoiler territory this early on. I mean, most people haven't even finished Spider-Man 2 yet, so we really shouldn't openly be talking about the sequel just yet, or at least in my opinion. It is what it is, I guess. The news was plastered all over Twitter this weekend, and you might know what I'm talking about, but nonetheless, what I can tell you all here is that there's a lot of speculation that Insomniac Games might be considering a new DareDevil game. Yeah, Insomniac could maybe make a DareDevil game, which is pretty cool to think about. Now, the reason that a lot of people are starting to think about this is because in the first game, you could actually find a sign that read Nelson and Murdoch Attorneys at Law, which of course is a reference to Daredevil. If you don't know, Matt Murdock is Daredevil. So they already confirmed that Daredevil does indeed exist in their version of Spider-Man. But interestingly, in the Spider-Man sequel, that sign was nowhere to be found, or at least until an update. The creative director pointed this out himself on Twitter, that they re-added the reference of Daredevil. You can see it here, and this quickly got a lot of people talking online. Now, maybe this was just an oversight on Insomniac's part originally. Maybe they just simply forgot to add that reference in and quickly updated it post-release after fans started to notice its absence. But it does stand out because the creative director brought it up himself, which is bringing a lot of attention to this. He's not really saying anything else. If he wants to stop the speculation, he simply could, but he's letting that roll on in. So it does almost come off as a tease, and that's really the thing here, because he also mentioned Daredevil again in a Spider-Man live stream by Insomniac. They were celebrating the music for Spider-Man 2 game and everything, and at the end of the live stream, he subtly said, "Where is Daredevil?" And that's how they ended the stream. Now, this really stood out because this just kind of came out of nowhere. They weren't talking about Daredevil before, so this just kind of came out of the blue. But he was kind of joking around about some other things as well, which does lead me to believe that he might just be trolling fans because he knows that there's already some speculation out there. So you do have to kind of keep that in mind. This is not a guarantee or anything. He could just be playing around. But with that said, if I'm being optimistic here, I'd like to think that he is teasing Daredevil because he's actually my favorite Marvel superhero. I've always really liked Daredevil. I've talked about it in the channel before. If there is one superhero game that I'd like to see in the future, it would be Daredevil. And if anybody could develop it, yeah, Insomniac would be at the top of my list. But yeah, I've always liked his story. It's much darker than a lot of other superhero stuff, but you look at the Venom story with Spider-Man, and they did a pretty good job with that, and it was kind of dark as well. So hey, I mean, I would fully trust Insomniac if they went into this direction. I think that they would be the perfect choice. And even if you look at the combat between Spider-Man and Daredevil, it makes a lot of sense. Spider-Man has the Spidey sense, which allows you to dodge incoming attacks, and Daredevil, he's similar to a degree. He has heightened senses from where he's blind, so the combat would translate very well from character to character and game to game. So I'd be all for this personally, but I do also need to say something else. I do think that this brings up a question of, do we really want Insomniac to just be the Marvel studio from here on out? I mean, they have Spider-Man, they're also making Wolverine, and who knows, maybe they are considering Daredevil as well. That's yet to be confirmed, but what about game-first IP like Ratchet & Clank or Sunset Overdrive? Is Insomniac still going to have time for that type of stuff as well, or are they instead just going to move away from that to primarily focus on Marvel heroes? And if so, is that really what we want as fans? I think for me personally, I was hoping that they'd be able to balance the two together. I do like the Spider-Man series. I would like Daredevil as well. I'm not really a huge Marvel fan, to be honest, outside of those two. But because Spider-Man has been so ultra successful for them as a business, yeah, they might be looking to double down on that. I mean, I guess we'll see. But I did want to pose that question for you all. What would you like to see from Insomniac going forward? Now, that wasn't the only big game tease to make news this weekend, though, because Blizzard was asked about a World of Warcraft console version. I mean, this has been a long time request from fans. And, well, with the Xbox acquisition, realistically, the chances have gone way up. It would make a lot of sense for WoW to finally come over to consoles, or at the bare minimum, at least to Xbox. This could be a big game for them to bolster Xbox's lineup with if that's something they wanted to do. So I imagine Xbox is already thinking about this. I imagine they are probably going to push for a console release eventually. Now when, we'll kind of see, but when asked about a console version at BlizzCon, here's what Blizzard had to say. It's a complicated question, and to your earlier point, for a console audience, the approachability is likely going to be different. Right now, we're focused on the World Soul Saga, but if that comes up, then we'll re-examine things. But man, we've got enough to deal with right now. We've got these 3 expansions, and we are so excited about them. But yeah, of course, it would be very insincere to say that we're not. Like, of course, we're talking about that. We are Microsoft now. So there you go. Hope is live and well for a WoW console version, or again, at the bare minimum, at least an Xbox version. They are indeed talking about apparently a lot, and I imagine that's going to ramp up quite significantly with Microsoft's inclusion. I do imagine that they are probably going to push for this. Now, it might take a while, though. I would not expect this to happen immediately, but they also admitted that they are in a good position for World of Warcraft. They believe there's no technical issue stopping them from a console release. But you know, this is still a large game with a ton of expansions. I mean, if you think about it this way, you're not just porting one small game, you're porting 20 years of content. It's a lot, and they'll have to make sure it feels good on console. MMOs do cater to the PC audience with a lot of different hotkeys, and mapping that to a controller can feel a little bit more clunky, but you know, the thing is, this is not a rare occurrence anymore. You know, there used to be questions about this a lot, but we've seen MMOs on consoles have success, and we've seen them feel good. Just look at Final Fantasy XIV and The Elder Scrolls Online. These games run perfectly fine on console. So yeah, I think WoW would be just fine as well, and in all honesty, it would be good for not only Xbox, but keep in mind that it would also be good for the WoW community as a whole. Putting this game in front of millions of more players could give WoW another boost to its player count. With more players and more money coming into Blizzard, that only ensures it has an even better future going forward. So personally, I think that they should absolutely make this one of their top priorities. Fans have requested this for far too long as it is, so let's finally hope the Xbox can make this happen. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, and leaning into that Blizzard discussion, are you more excited for the future of Blizzard now that they're under Xbox instead of Activision? And yeah, so you all are beyond optimistic here. The vast majority of you all voted yes, in which I completely agree. I've said it before, but the reason that I'm personally excited about this acquisition is really just the idea that these studios can have more creative freedom now. I mean, Activision, they did a great job maximizing the money that they can make each and every year, no doubt about that. But that's not always necessarily indicative of quality. Again, we talked about Modern Warfare 3 just earlier, and if it's true that that game was originally supposed to be DLC, but they forced it to be a $70 game, that goes to show you where Activision's priorities lie. The quality is not their main focus, and okay, they can get away with that because Call of Duty is so immensely popular, but it is exciting to think that Xbox can come in and really empower all of these different studios to focus on quality first and foremost. It's a nice change of pace, and they can give a company like Blizzard, such a beloved company, they can give them back their complete creative freedom, and Blizzard themselves, they have publicly expressed their excitement over this gesture. They're thrilled by Phil Spencer's comments that they're going to have more creative freedom under Xbox than what they had under Activision. And as a fan, that is incredibly exciting to hear. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.